Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us for SEO Fight Club episode 9. Today, we are going to talk about Google updates, but to talk about the current update, we need to go back in time a little bit and talk about recent updates to understand the landscape. But before we jump into that, let's go through some housekeeping. If you want to learn about who we are, you can go to seofightclub.org and read our bios. A little bit of information there. We also recently started a Quora and Pop Skype chat group that's free. We talk about SEO and our tools. And so if you're interested in learning about those tools and that side of things, you can go to SEOtoollab.com, and at the top there's a link to join the Skype group. There have been a few reports of people having difficulty joining by the link. If that happens, just reach out to me via the contact form and I'll get you added in manually.
I actually had problems too. It took me a couple clicks. I had to click it a couple times.
Yeah, but it should be automatic and it should just work by clicking. If that's not the case, just reach out to us and we'll get you in. Clint is not with us today. He had an appointment that he couldn't reschedule, so he will be back again next week. If you don't know, Clint runs a show called SEO This Week, which is an amazing show. He pours through hundreds of weekly articles on SEO and search marketing and boils it down to the 5 or 10 most important ones of the week. It's a huge time saver. So if you were like me years ago, spending 20 hours a month pouring through all of the articles and publications, I mean, that's a lot of time. So highly recommend you check it out. It's really cool. And with that, I'd like to introduce my co-host, Kyle Roof, and he's going to lead today's discussion.
All right, so we're going to talk today about the Medic update, and I don't think you can talk about the Medic update without talking about EAT, E-A-T, which is a buzzword right now in the SEO community. If you have not heard of either of these terms, welcome to your first day of SEO, and we're really honored to have you here on the program. What is EAT? So expertise, authoritativeness, and trustworthiness. These terms come from the Search Quality Evaluator Guidelines. I actually thought that somebody just made them up, like one of the talking heads at one of the larger blogs that made that up. But it actually comes from Google and the Search Quality Evaluator Guidelines. And the Medic update, which was August 1st of last year, seemed to target sites that maybe had problems with these issues. And it's called the Medic update because initially it looked like it was targeting health niches. And then people felt that maybe it was expanded to beyond that and to many niches where expertise, authoritativeness, and trustworthiness are an issue.
Can I break in with a controversy right here?
Do it.
So I know it's slide 1. So Google swears that these guidelines are not algorithmic. Like, they are feedback on the quality of the results, but they are not baked into the algorithm. Any thoughts on those claims?
That is point number 2. I think focusing on these things misses the point. They're wildly subjective, and we're asking an algorithm to try to determine these things. And so, Ted, reasonable minds can differ on who is an expert, who is an authority, who is trustworthy. You think about like the debate in basketball, who's the best basketball player of all time?
Well, I would challenge people in chat. Here's a mental exercise, crowdsourcing this. Name 5 expertise factors that you can measure.
Exactly. What can you have to think about it. What can be crawled? What can an algorithm do? What can the Google crawler do when it comes to a page and look at something? What can it find to establish somebody as an expert? What would that be? What can they find to establish authority on the site? And we're not talking like link authority or domain authority, if you like that, or page authority, but that this person who is writing this information is an authority on the topic.
If there was a web API for looking up accredited degrees with people's identities. That could be, but to my knowledge, that doesn't exist.
Can you imagine the processing power that would take?
Yeah.
Because then also, well, this person got their degree from Harvard, but this person got their degree from MIT, but then this person got their degree from the Sorbonne. Like, now we have to judge like that.
Yeah. And if there was a web API for this company is publicly traded with a favorable PE ratio.
Right, exactly.
It gets really subjective, but then that's not fair to all the non-publicly traded companies. And
one thing too is it also would be unfair to the person that has been in the industry for 25 years and simply doesn't possess a higher degree, but is an absolute authority and is recognized as so.
Yeah, exactly. You get bias in the system.
Just because somebody has a degree doesn't mean they know something more than somebody that doesn't. That's a fallacy.
Yeah, and the people who have been in computer science the longest hit this quite regularly, because there was a time when there weren't computer science programs at universities. There
Sure.
wasn't. You couldn't get a web architecture degree. That just wasn't a thing.
Right, exactly. So these things are very subjective. I think it's, but this goes back to other talks that we've had where people want to grant godlike powers to Google, that Google is so amazing that they can somehow figure these things out in a subjective sense. And that simply isn't the case, in my opinion, and in my practice. But I think in order to medic-proof your site, I've got some things that I walk through and what I teach on what to do, and I think it goes much more into a strategic, instead of worrying about is this person a more authority or is this person more trustworthy or how to do that. Some things that I think a search engine can actually find. That's something that they can actually do when they come to a site to crawl to establish and tick enough boxes to say, okay, yes, this site meets these requirements. I think you need to be able to answer these questions. Who owns the site? Who is responsible for the content? Who can I contact if I have a problem? These things, I think, really go to establish, are you a real business? Are you a real source that somebody can come to get an answer? And if they have a problem, they can get redress. They can get a refund. They can get help with the product, that sort of thing. So you need to understand who owns the site, who's responsible for the content, and who can I contact if I have a problem. And it's also very important that a search engine needs to be able to do this, not a human being. You can look at a site and you can know it's a real site because you're a human being. A search engine can't do that. So they have to look at very specific things that give those indicators that what they're seeing is good for the user, that it's a good site to show. So who owns the site? There are some things I think you can do to establish this to help Google out. One is verify your Google My Business, first and foremost. Where a lot of sites run into problem, and a lot of affiliate sites run into problems, is that they don't want to do that because they don't have an address, for example, or they don't have an address that they want to show. I understand that concern, but you know who also has that problem? Spam or scam sites. So if Google needs to establish that you're a real site so they can feel good about presenting you in the SERPs, being able to show them that you're an actual business is probably a very good first step, and it's something that you should probably try to find a solution for. This also leads into the next thing: display real company details. This is on the site, so a business address and a phone number. Again, people get really antsy about doing this because I don't want people to come to our office, or my office is my home. Real companies can figure this out. But the ones that definitely cannot are sites that are scammed. Organization schema. On your main landing pages or the pages that are with your brand, you should have organization schema. That could be a local business, that could be corporation, that could be whatever you are, but make sure that you're getting that schema on your page. Correct information and factual. Factual is one of the major data aggregators, such as Localese or Axiom. You need to make sure that your information is correct. So the information that you gave Google in the Google My Business, the information that is displayed on your site, the information that is in your organization schema, all must be exactly the same and must be what is also in factual or one of the other data aggregators.
Yeah.
Inconsistencies are a problem.
Yeah, I was about to jump in and mention, what about agreement? Because you can't have an old address on one aggregator and a new address on a new one, right?
Exactly right. You need to go and fix that. You know who fixes those things? Real companies. Like the real companies, people who are on the ball, who are servicing their customers appropriately. They are very meticulous about these things. They're running their business the right way. They're running their site the right way. All of these things match up. All of these things are possible. I get blowback from client work from real companies that don't want to do this. Like a lot of blowback, and I'm like, how does Google can't walk to your office? Google can't knock on the door and talk to you for a second. But Google can do all of these things to establish that you're an actual place or you're an actual thing. Own your brand names with Web 2.0s. This is real companies defend their brand. They own their brand name in as many places as they can. This is something that's very easy to do, and I recommend doing it. So this is brand.wordpress.com, brand.tumblr.com, brand.fillinyourweb2.0.com. Own it in as many places, and you don't need to blog on them. It's putting business information. It's almost like creating your own citations.
And even if you don't intend to use these, you want to claim them, because do you really want one of your critics or competitors to claim it for you and put up something embarrassing?
Exactly. So when you think about a lot of what's online now that kind of establishes credibility, there's a corollary in the real world or in the physical world, and one of those things is owning your brand. When somebody tries to use your name, you don't give them the opportunity to do that, but then you also take care of it if they have. One way you can do that on the web is through Web 2.0s, just owning the brand name of that property. And as I said, you don't need to blog on these things. You're not putting content. Use them as citations. Your name, address, and phone number, and then a link to your site. And the name, address, and phone number should be exactly the same as what you're putting on all those other things. So there's a lot of consistency going on here, that this company, this brand is this thing, this is their address, this is where they're located. Verify your domain in YouTube. So once using the same Gmail that you used with your Google My Business, you can go into YouTube and and verify your domain there. Wikipedia, Wikidata. Wikipedia can be tricky to get your business in, but Wikidata is often a lot easier. Wikidata, if you're not familiar, is basically Wikipedia, but without all the words. And it breaks down more entity type information. You can often get even local businesses into Wikidata. It helps Google understand, that you're a real thing.
Yeah, that verified domain in YouTube one is a potent gem. So I just want to make a call out to that one, that's a nugget of information that you typically only get in like a high price SEO conference right there. It's pure gold in that one bullet.
Yeah, most people don't know that you can do that you can verify your domain through your Gmail, the Gmail that you used with the company. You can go in and you click into YouTube from that account, and you can verify the domain that you're using. And I'll show some screenshots of that. And then G+. This is one of my favorite things, because people are like, hey, Kyle, G+ is going away. Wrong. G+ on the personal side is going away, but it still exists if you have G Suite, and you can have a business one. So think about that for a second. If you have G Suite and have a Gmail, so you're now paying Google for that. So you're a real company. You have established this in Google with your G Suite. You can get a G+, and it gives you an identifying number, just like G+ does now. Again, helping Google understand that you're an actual thing. And it can sync a lot of these things together for you. And I'll show that. So the verified postcard, this is, as I'm sure that people that are listening are aware, Google sends you a postcard and it verifies your address. So that's a physical verification that you exist at this particular location. Then you go into YouTube and verify your domain. This is, you need to go into the legacy view and click to advanced, and then that's where you would associate your website. And it looks like this, that you have verified the site. And this is from my fun rhinoplasty example, which I was able to do for that site. If you recall how well I did in that competition, I think this is one of the things that really helped that. Then using the same Gmail now through G Suite, you want to set up your G+. I left this slide up because notice it says this account is going away because this is on an old account. This is one of those things in SEO that takes a little bit of planning. You need to make sure that you are using the same Gmail across all these accounts, and that account would then be in G Suite. Now, because we've got Google Plus, we can use rel publisher, and we can put in our G Plus identifier, whether that's the long string with the numbers or the branded one if they give you that within your own site.
And
now,
in some niches, we see that rel publisher correlate strongly. So that one gives me chills every time I see it.
For sure. And it's one of the things, remember way back in the day when Google got rid of rel author, people just assumed that they got rid of rel publisher at the same time, and they didn't. It's the same thing with G+. G+ is going away, and that's for personal, but people just assume it's for everything. It's one of the things that Google likes to do, just kind of toss out this is what's going on, and then let SEOs run wild with what that actually means or what the implications are. But Ted, here's a schematic that I downloaded from the dark web, just in case people are missing this point. So you've got your physical GMB postcard verification, and then you've got your YouTube domain verification with your G+, that gives you an ID, and then they all sync to your site with your rel publisher. It's a massive trust signal. Any site that's been hit with Medic, if they've done this, I would like to see that. You know, if anybody has an example, I'd really like to take a look at that example, because it's really tricky for sites that are legitimate sites or it's really for sites that aren't legitimate to do all of this. And I'd be surprised if any site that has done all of this got hit. One way to know if you're doing it right is to do a branded search. So for the brand, you should have the knowledge panel should pop up. If you do a branded search and you don't have a knowledge panel, Google is having difficulty understanding who you are or what you are. And you need to go back and work on some of those things that I think were mentioned. Just because you have a knowledge panel doesn't mean you aren't going to be hit. That's not the point. But the point is, this is one indicator that you've done things correctly. All right. The next section, who is responsible for this content? You need an About Us page that's linked in navigation. And that About Us page talks about the company. It should have real company links, such as industry certifications, Better Business Bureau, et cetera, et cetera. Then you want to meet the team or an equivalent page linked in the navigation. This talks about the people of the company. Real companies can show who they are. They can show who the people that are working there are. These people should have real links to something like LinkedIn or some sort of qualifications that show that they are who they say they are. I also think it's a good idea if you're writing a post or an article that you've got author schema on there and an author bio. Now, a lot of people focused on a lot of this during the Medic update, and I think this is really secondary to that first slide. But these things are so easy to do. If you are a real thing, this shouldn't be a problem. You should have this basically anyway, and maybe you just need to tweak it a little bit. If you don't have it, I think you should do it. It's very simple to do. And a lot of people focus on this. I think this is secondary, but I still think it's quite important and something that should be done. This is an example on a site where in the top of their navigation, you can see they've got the full center info center page and the About Us. Those are the first two links in their navigation dropdown. So it's easy to get to this information. It's easy to understand who they are and that they're real people and they're a real company. This next one is, I think, is super important. Who do I contact if I have a problem? You need different emails for different departments. If you are a company, it's very unlikely that sending, all people need to send something to info@yourcompany.com or admin@yourcompany.com. That's probably wildly unhelpful for your users. And real companies have different departments. Now, at the end of the day, all those emails might funnel into one spot, but you really should have different departments because you will have different issues or people have different concerns or different needs. You need to just actually display an email on a site, not just a contact form. I think the biggest way to look and see that a site is a PBN or is some sort of scam is they've got info@site.com and then just a fill out this contact form. A local number is huge. Real companies are located in an actual place and they will have a real phone number. That's a local number. It's pretty rare that a company doesn't. I understand that telecommunications are changing a lot, but still most companies have a local number that they put down when they register their business, for example.
One thing that often gets overlooked is hours of operation.
Oh, that's a great one.
Schema
When are they open? When should you be there? And that should go into your organization schema. Complaints and returns in the footer. So it's easy to find how to complain. It's easy to find how to return the product. Here's an example again. So in this particular site, they've got sales at, returns at, webmaster at. So people that have just general issues, people that have specific returns issues, and there's a link to the return policy page, and issues with the website. And then of course there's the contact form that they can go. So that's 4 different ways to contact them, depending on what your need is. So it's not just one general admin at kind of an email. And then within their footer, you can see they've got ordering info, shipping info, terms and conditions, privacy policy, return policy. Not to mention all the other things they've got going on that they're secured, kind of thing. They've got, they've even got another one, email in the sales. So that's actually a 4th email that they're displaying on the site on how to get information on what your needs are. These send good signals. These are very easy to do. That's the kind of thing that you can medic-proof your site in a matter of days, just kind of knocking these things out and just establishing what an actual company is able to do.
Now, if your trust badge, there's a lot of programs out there. If your trust badge is going to cost you a lot of money and it doesn't make sense for your business, then I'd argue that you could probably pass on it. But if you're a big business and you can afford to have those, third-party trust badges, then sure.
Yeah, and that's not the be-all to end-all. The point more is as you look at this and you realize, as a human, it's real, but also that a search engine can come in and start to look at these things. And when they're looking off of a list of what they're checking off to say, like, is this a legitimate site? This ticks a lot of boxes. You got to figure there are probably so many factors. And if you tick so many boxes or you have so many empty, that's when you got hit or that you passed.
And what a lot of people do when they have these trust badges and the social buttons, they put them on every page site-wide, but they often forget to follow them. So they end up spending their page rank boosting something other than their content.
That's a really good point. In the Medic, there were some famous winners and losers. 2 in particular, Healthline.com, which went up, and Dr. Axe, which went down. And these miffed, I guess, a lot of experts as to how the Healthline could be moving up and the Dr. Axe could be moving down. I understand that there's been some updates kind of stuff recently, and some people are saying that Dr. Axe is recovering, and that's fine. But I wanted to run through some differences between these sites. So this is Healthline, real addresses and local phone numbers. They have 2 different offices. They give you the mailing address, and they give you 2 different local phone numbers for those addresses. Dr. Axe doesn't. And also there's just an 855 number. So when you think about, is this site a lead gen site? A lead gen site just has one number that you're calling, or they're algorithmically changing a number for tracking purposes, but one lead gen kind of filler number or general number is what scam sites do. Or not scam sites. Well, scam sites, yes, but then also lead gen as well. And I can see that the Medic update would be looking to get rid of a lot of lead gen sites when they really probably want to show an actual business that isn't just generating leads for something else. HealthLink has links to profiles on their Meet Our Team pages. So notice that all of these have a LinkedIn link. And then they also have other links going to other places that establish that this is an actual person, to Twitter, to Facebook, et cetera, et cetera. When you go to Dr. Axe, they don't. And actually, infuriatingly, when you click on these links, like for Rebecca and Julie, it just goes to the post, like an author page, the post that they've written. I can make this up right now. I can make up a Mike Carlson and a Rebecca Edwards and a Julie Goolsby. That's easy. These people don't exist. But I mean, Mike over here, he's got this NSCA-CPT, whatever that might be, but there's no link to say what that might be. Or whatever. I can make up those things. It's very easy. They even have, like, if you scroll down on their About Us page, they have doctors, and you go to a bio page, and some of those have links to maybe things that they've written in scholarly journals. But again, there's nothing that identifies what this person's certifications are, or that they're an actual person, that they really generally and truly exist beyond this About Us page. Even the Dr. Axe About Me page doesn't have any information on it.
Dory Friend from SIA comments that this is all great information for PBNs, which,
oh, no doubt.
She's making a funny remark there, but it's funny because it's true.
For sure. So, like, if you scroll down a little bit on this page, you can see, so Dr. Axe, DC, DNM, CNS. I have no idea what those things are, or what that might be. And then look at these first three links. That first link, that drax.com, do you want to know where that goes? Back to the homepage. And then Healthy Recipes is a place that they're trying to get you into the site to consume their information. So it's not anything telling us who Dr. Axe is. And then the About Us page just circles back to that About Us page that has all that, what could be perceived as just completely fake information. Healthline has different company emails. So in addition to the address and the phone numbers, check out all the different departments that they have. Have you found an inaccuracy within our content? You need to go there. Trouble using the site, go there. And then email. Want to advertise, you want to go over here. All those different departments have different places. There are different emails that you can get to different things. Now, that's a legitimate company. Dr. Axe has help@drax.com. There's only one contact. There's no way that everybody that's got an issue that help at is going to solve all of those problems or get to the right person in a timely manner. And the last one that's interesting is if you search for Healthline, they've got a knowledge panel, and on the right-hand side, it's cut off a bit, but it's really detailed. It actually says like who the founder of the company is. It has an actual name, which that person has their own Wikipedia page. It gives a lot of information, gives a lot of their social profiles. If you look at Dr. Axe, it's just his personal one. It doesn't actually establish that then the site drax.com has any sort of, it's not a known entity. Dr. Axe himself is, but again, that then doesn't lead to any credibility to what's on the site, or that he's responsible for what's on the site, or that he actually owns the site, or can I contact Dr. Axe if I have a problem? None of that exists. What's interesting too, so when you think about it as a human being, when you look at Dr. Axe, I have no problem with it. It looks very legitimate to me, more than legitimate, and the people look very valid. And Dr. Axe seems very nice, and he's quite handsome. None of that, though, is going to help an algorithm as it's crawling through the site to see that this is a real thing. When you go through on the about me page for Dr. Axe, you scroll to the bottom, there are all these links to TV shows that he's been on, different articles he's written, and all that's super fantastic. But a human can see that and understand it.
So Jordan Pierce, who's a local SEO guru in chat, makes another joke, is it claimed, laugh out loud, if not, I'm taking that shit. Can you talk briefly about the hazards of not claiming your knowledge graph?
I can tell you specifically. So I had a company that was a mattress company, and if you've ever done any mattress work, that is one of the most ugly niches to get into on marketing. They had an unclaimed knowledge panel. A competitor claimed it, changed it, and said that they were a piano tuning company. And it was awesome. It was truly fantastic. And then ranking started to dip. We were hemorrhaging citations. It was a mess until we figured out that they had never claimed. Actually, they had claimed their knowledge panel, and then they actually gave up their GMB because they decided not to do it anymore because they were tired of getting negative reviews. Ponder that one for a second.
Yeah, so it's kind of like a Web 2.0. If you don't claim it, then somebody else can come in and embarrass you with it.
Yeah, exactly. And it just, again, it provides that trust link that you're an actual thing, that this address is where you are, this is your information. And if you're taking the time to sync all those things together, then you're building that, if you will, entity, that you are a thing, that you exist, and that your site should be then shown for different keywords that are especially sensitive keywords when we're talking about health and finance and stuff like that.
So 2K3 Design asks, do you have to have specific personal info to claim those?
You do have to walk through the process. I've done it before. Let me remember.
Jordan says no. Jordan says.
I do feel like they have a bit of a verification problem, but I can't remember what it is off the top of my head. But Jordan's saying no, then. No, there you go. All right, so Medic 2, Florida 2, the March Core Update 2019. One thing I'd like to start with, Ted, who names these things? Who is responsible for this?
Oh, the community usually names it using sample bias, like they'll call it the medic update because they looked at 10 health sites and they all saw a hit. But that's, that's sample bias. That's not a look across all industries. And then
I heard Florida 2 was because somebody thought that something was said at PubCon and Google must have been there.
Yeah, again, sample bias. And then if you ask Google, Google will come out and say it's the Core Update 2019, which is a plausible deniability name on many fronts.
Yeah. Anyway, I feel it's like the guy that declares things like National Sweater Day or National Cheese Day. That guy has actually no authority to do that. He just started a website and started doing that. And then all the local news and national news would go to his website and be like, what day is it? Well, it's National Pumpkin Day. And then they would it's almost like a self-validating thing.
Yeah. When I look at the data behind algorithm updates, I find it very hard to put a descriptive name to what I see in the data.
Yeah. So I guess maybe when it comes down to it, I'm going to let somebody else burn their energy on that. Just give us a name. All right. So looks like there's been a bit of recovery. A lot of sites that I've seen that I've analyzed, client sites, other people's sites, sites that are kind of some of these famous examples, there does seem to be a bit of recovery. Some people are saying that it's been rolled back, which is entirely possible, or some things could have been curbed. But something that I'm thinking is that this to me feels more like Penguin back in the day. That okay, everybody got slapped, they cleaned up their sites, and then 6 months later, whenever then Google then re-rolled to check for Penguin, that's when sites started to recover again. So it wasn't an instantaneous you're back, but you had to wait for Penguin to re-roll again. I mean, so August, September, October, November, December, January, we're like 5-6 months out from that. That seems to me like it could be a just simply it rolled again. So then people went and did a whole bunch of work to establish their quote unquote EAT and whatever they thought that might do. They tick enough of the boxes, either intentionally or accidentally, and then they see some recovery. Yeah. That's what this feels like to me.
And recovery is a weird thing, because in a stack ranking like web rankings are, for one site to go up, at least one other site must go down. And oftentimes, if one site goes from page 2 to page 1, then like 10 or more sites need to go down for that one to go up. And so to say that it's a reversal, that is such a specific change, to say that all the things that went up went back to where they were and all the things that went down, swap back, show me the data on the reversal. I think what we're actually seeing is change was followed by more change.
I think that's entirely fair. Ted, I think you've got some data on some data points on this change.
Yeah. Let's go through some data and then we'll try and answer some questions.
Sounds good.
So what we're looking at here is the top correlating factors from the shared Cora data that covers currently 5,151 different search terms. And so I pulled the top 50 here and I have them for reference. So if you kind of want to see what the landscape is across, 5,000 different keywords, that's what we're showing you here, as these appear to be the strongest factors. So we'll go ahead and hit the next slide. Here's page 2 of that. We'll hit the next slide. You can come back and pause the video and look at that in more detail. So now what we have is a little bit of analysis of that data I just presented. So I compared the data from 2 different dates, so from last month and this month, because I feel that, somewhere in between is this most recent update. And it's really hard to say, the update has officially started and the update has officially, rolled out. It's been deployed. I have a lot of difficulty identifying those specific events. So I try to get a broad, date range that probably encompasses most of the change. And hopefully the update's done deploying it's entirely possible that it's not even done deploying yet. But based on the date range, what we see in the Quora shared data is backlinks. So it, it kind of gives the feel that, Google has turned up the value of PageRank. But we could misread this data because only backlinks and Ahrefs went up. We didn't see a similar effect in SEMrush and the DOM detailer data. And so I would have liked to see backlinks across the board, across all the different platforms go up. So this could also hint that Ahrefs backlink database recently got a whole lot better. So that could also be what's happening here, is maybe Ahrefs got a whole lot more backlink data and the quality of their database just went sharply up. So let's hit the next slide. And so here, instead of looking at 5,000 keywords, I'm looking at one of my calibration keywords. So I have keywords that I go to tune the software to make sure things are measuring correctly. And I visit these keywords so frequently, I know them very, very well. And so DUI lawyer Los Angeles is one of my calibration keywords. I use it because the competition is so fierce. Sometimes this term goes as high as like $150 per click in paid advertising. So people really, really want this organic traffic. And as a result, we get really good correlation data from a keyword like this. So what I do is I take two different dates, so well before the update and hopefully after the update, and we diff to see how the correlation strength changes for this keyword. So this is correlation data very specific to a keyword I'm trying to rank for and my website within those rankings. So if we hit next, what we can see here, these are the highlights. These are the big swings from within that correlation diff. I sorted them by the biggest swing at the top and going down. The yellow ones appear to be trust related, schema related, entity related, contact info related, metadata, open graph, street addresses. So you kind of got a feel for that from what Kyle was presenting. And these are actually the biggest swings in my calibration keyword. So let's go ahead and hit the next slide. So I conferred with several other people. So based on the data we see across, 5,000 different keywords, based on the data I'm seeing in my own personal calibration keywords, and based on what I'm hearing from other people doing similar analysis, these tend to be the general categories where I'm seeing this recent algorithm change happening. So backlinks look like they've gotten more valuable, or Ahrefs data got noticeably better recently. So either of those two things are possible. Schema appears to be more important. Your open graph Twitter cards, your metadata seems to be more important. It looks like EMDs and exact match domains and partial match domains might have gotten another boost again, which, is remarkable. And it looks like trust factors might be up again as well. And so that's our show. We'll do some questions. Please subscribe. I want to let everybody know that you're subscribing to the channel helps us unlock features that YouTube offers so that we can better deliver content to you guys. So please, subscribe if you haven't already. And so let's see. If you have questions, please call them out with some asterisks so that we can see them. Somebody says, what about BBB badge accreditation? How do you feel about the Better Business Bureau?
I personally like it. It's expensive. It's not, I think, the one thing that would stop any kind of badness happening to your site. But and I also don't think you need to keep it for forever. But if you can afford it, I don't think it's a bad idea at all.
And if you were starting a new affiliate site, would you verify the GMB to get the ball rolling?
I would. I'd get an address lockdown and a Google phone number, and you can just use a Google Voice number.
Let's see. Why did brands like Vanity Fair and New Yorker lose ranks? For me, I would have to measure some data before I'd even begin trying to answer a question like that. What do you think?
Yeah, I haven't looked at them specifically. It's also possible that those brands lost rank for other reasons too. Uh, just that happens. So that's one of those things. Like I think I've been hit. It's possible. Maybe you were, maybe you weren't. But yeah, I don't have any specific data on those sites at all.
Yeah, Derek Iwaziak from Assimilation says he did Cora diffs on many and sentiment keywords way up. I saw that as well. I should have added that to my slides. Sentiment keywords and year and title for many calibration keywords did see a bump. So I should mention that because those seemed rather remarkable too. Let's see, exact search term and key spots went way up. Yeah, I saw some of that as well. He said partial match domains, he had some go down, but they were weak in DR. So, yeah, I like Derek's research. So he's doing similar research. What schema WordPress plugin would you recommend?
I don't use one currently. All the stuff that I've done, I run through the validator, the structured data testing tool that Google has, and then create templates out of that. And I have heard a lot of great things about Project Supremacy. So I personally don't use that, but that's the one that I hear, I think, consistently good stuff about. So I would check that one out. Looking for a plugin option.
Yeah, I've had a lot of people comment to me that they've had a lot of difficulty getting Google to recognize schema from plugins. And what a lot of those people have done is they've uninstalled the plugins and they'll manually view the raw source of their post and paste in the JSON LD or the schema they need.
Depending, some WordPress templates will be problematic, but most are just fine. If you go into the text editor, you can copy and paste your JSON script at the very top and you'll be good to go.
Let's see. So a lot of recommendations in chat. So if you are looking for something to experiment with, definitely peruse the chat. My site went from ranking 1 to 4 down to 80 to 100 overnight. Finally got a boost in October of 2018, and now it's all wiped out. I'd have to look at that. When you see a website fall like that, you need to dive in and do a technical audit. Oftentimes what could happen is there just might be some technical issue that has gotten you de-indexed. It might not be a punishment. You might have a robots.txt issue. You might have a duplicate content issue with your navigation and URL parameters. So when I see a website just like sink like that, that usually triggers the need for a technical SEO audit. Let's look for something that might have just, amputated your website from the rankings. And then, then we'll look at other things like, did you have good factors and signals on the page? What are your thoughts on a fall like that?
Yeah, technical is a big thing. Spammy links. You tagged your site or somebody else tagged your site. But technical is the first thing that pops out in my mind. All of a sudden half of your pages weren't indexed anymore.
Yeah, yeah. I often find that, people jump to the assumption of penalty. So unless you got something in your Google Search Console saying you've been penalized, it's usually not the case. Oftentimes, there's not a single human being at Google that gives a crap about your website, and it's usually a technical issue. So I would start there. And then I'd follow it up with getting data, so if you think that it's algorithmic, then you'd want to start looking at the measurements and seeing how you differ.
Yeah, and you'd have to know something that you did. I've run into that from time to time with people like, I don't know why my site dropped. And I'm like, well, did you do this, this, or this? Well, yeah, I did all three of those. Well, there you go. So a little introspection sometimes, like, well, my strategy may not be working.
So, what's incredible here is that we are actually on time.
Hey,
I was worried with the size of the slide deck, but we did it, questions and everything. So I think we will stop here. And I want to thank everybody for joining us today. If you have more questions, feel free to leave them in the YouTube comments or to reach out to either of us individually. And again, thank you, everyone. Any parting thoughts, Kyle?
nope, just thanks everyone for being on. We really appreciate it.
All right. Thanks, everyone.